Tonight, Prince Andrew gives up his royal titles amid building pressure.
This just keeps on being more and more damaging for the palace.
The scandals, from his ties with a sex offender to a meeting with an alleged Chinese spy. A spike in jewelry store robberies, many brazen and violent.
My leg got 7 shots and it's too painful.
As the price of gold soars, how organized crime is cashing in. The race to contain a months-long Salmonella outbreak linked to pistachios.
The situation is so much more complex than the usual outbreak investigation.
And the Dubai chocolate craze could be raising the risk.
From CBC News, this is The National with Christine Barak.
Thanks for joining us. Prince Andrew has long been sidelined from his royal duties, but tonight, a significant step back from the monarchy. He's giving up his royal titles. Andrew will no longer be known as the Duke of York. He says he's relinquishing it after discussions with his brother, King Charles, and other senior members of the royal family. Prince Andrew has faced criticism about his connection to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And as Susan Ormiston shows us, while Andrew denies all the accusations, the damage to his reputation is long-lasting.
Another step down for Prince Andrew, who'd already shed royal duties and other titles. The palace needing space from the continuing embarrassing headlines questioning the prince's integrity and his choices. In the past week, new emails surfacing in British tabloids, allegedly between the prince and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, seen in this photo in 2010. Andrew reportedly wrote, "We are in this together," suggesting he stayed closer to Epstein than he previously admitted.
There was a sense that perhaps there may be more to come as more information is released, and this just keeps on being more and more damaging for the palace.
Then there's the memoir by Virginia Giuffre coming out within days. Again, she alleges having sex with the prince as a 17-year-old trapped in the Epstein web. He was friendly enough but still entitled, she writes, as if he believed having sex with me was his birthright. In 2019, she spoke about Andrew.
He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it.
She took her own life this year. Andrew has always denied her allegations.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Adding up, as well, other questions regarding his involvement with officials alleged to be Chinese spies close to the Chinese president.
This whole situation has been so damaging for Prince Andrew and for the monarchy at large. It creates all these conversations around inherited privilege, around abuse of privilege and power.
Prince Andrew says he stepped away voluntarily, but clearly under pressure from his brother King Charles. In a statement, Andrew says, "We have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I will therefore no longer use my titles or the honors conferred on me. As I've said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me." He won't be the Duke, but he won't likely leave the Royal Lodge near Windsor Castle, where he has a private lease. Sarah Ferguson will no longer be a duchess, but Andrew remains a prince from birth.
Susan, what kind of reaction are you hearing there in the UK?
Well, it wasn't hard to see the pressure building up on King Charles to act more decisively and insulate the royal family from Prince Andrew. A poll last summer, for example, suggested about 2/3 of Brits wanted him stripped of all his titles. The royal family avoided that by persuading Prince Andrew to relinquish them. And as for the timing, well, King Charles is going to pray with the Pope in the Vatican next week, just as the Virginia Giuffre book is coming out. So royal watchers say that might have had a part to play in the timing.
Susan Ormiston in London tonight. Thanks, Susan.
You're welcome.
After another meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Donald Trump urged him and the Russian president to end the war. But as Paul Hunter explains, Zelenskyy is pushing for help in the form of cruise missiles for Kyiv.
As he pulled up to the West Wing, it was no secret what Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy was set to ask of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Mr. President, thank you very much for the invitation.
Niceties and dark business suit aside, Zelenskyy was looking for powerful American weaponry as Ukraine continues its defense against Russia's assault. Specifically, long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, seen here as launched from the Arabian Sea. Such weaponry fired from Ukraine could strike deep into Russia, including at Moscow. Say some, a potential game changer. But as Ukraine's fighters continue with shorter range weapons, Russian President Vladimir Putin has made clear the U.S. giving its Tomahawks to Ukraine would be a major escalation. Zelenskyy's view?
We understand what we need to push Putin to negotiation table.
But from Trump, a hint, maybe not.
Would much rather have them not need Tomahawks. Would much rather have the war be over, to be honest.
Trump suggested he'd prefer diplomacy, that Zelenskyy could take part indirectly in the now expected talks between Trump and Putin on this sometime soon in Budapest. The two, said Trump, just need to get along better.
They don't like each other. They have tremendous bad blood. It really is what is holding up, I think, a settlement. I think we're going to get it done. Well, I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or I wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I think that President Zelenskyy wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
So thank you so much.
After the two met privately, Zelenskyy said Trump made no commitment on Tomahawks.
We trust the United States. We trust President that he wants to finish this war, and it's difficult.
The repeated message from Trump publicly, Christine, the best way forward is to simply end the war.
An ending Trump himself presumably hopes to broker?
Yeah, but how, right? So all eyes turn to those talks in Budapest with a lot of ifs. If they go ahead, if Zelenskyy is there too, and if they bring progress. Trump posted late today that both sides should just stop fighting and both claim victory. Let history decide, he wrote, adding no more death, and left it at that.
Thanks, Paul. Paul Hunter in Washington tonight. Trump's former national security advisor pleaded not guilty today to a series of charges related to his handling of top-secret information. Sasha Petrusik explains why the case against John Bolton is different from other Trump critics.
Ambassador Bolton, do you have any comments?
With nothing to say outside court and a simple not guilty inside, John Bolton answered 18 counts of mishandling classified information, charges that could put him in jail for the rest of his life if convicted. The former national security advisor to Donald Trump is the latest perceived enemy of the U.S. president to end up on trial. In a written statement, Bolton vowed to defend his own lawful conduct and to expose Trump's abuse of power. Trump made no secret of his animosity.
I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Bolton has said Trump is unfit to be president.
There's no doubt that revenge is being exacted against him for those kinds of statements.
Former FBI Director James Comey has also been indicted for making false statements.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump.
And New York Attorney General Letitia James, another Trump critic, has been indicted for bank fraud.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system.
But Bolton's case is seen as more serious.
What makes it different is this has been investigated since back in 2021.
The FBI started probing his sharing of classified information with family members under former President Joe Biden. An Iran-backed hacker even read government secrets by breaking into Bolton's email.
This indictment has actual facts that lay out criminal activity.
Still, Bolton's supporters are calling it a witch hunt. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
Donald Trump says he's commuting the prison sentence of disgraced former Republican Congressman George Santos. Santos, a loyal Trump supporter, was serving more than 7 years. He was expelled from Congress after pleading guilty to fraud and identity theft after revelations he made a long list of false claims about his past. In a social media post, Trump said Santos had been horribly mistreated. Under pressure from the U.S. president to uphold a ceasefire, Hamas has deployed bulldozers in Gaza to search for the remains of Israeli hostages buried under rubble. As Tom Perry shows us, amid the push to get hostage remains out of Gaza is a humanitarian struggle to get aid in.
Digging amid the devastation. Heavy equipment turning up the earth in central Gaza, an effort Hamas says to find the missing remains of deceased hostages from Israel. In Israel, the families of hostages whose bodies have been returned are burying their dead. This memorial for 27-year-old Inbar Heyman.
I need to show that even in death, we respect the dying and the victim of the October 7th, and we won't forget him till everyone are back home.
The fact some bodies remain in Gaza is a source of grief and fury in Israel. It accuses Hamas of reneging on its commitment under the ceasefire agreement, but Hamas says it's returned all the bodies it can and will need help finding others buried in the rubble. Israel had placed restrictions on aid entering Gaza in retaliation. Even now, trucks carrying humanitarian assistance are entering at just 2 crossings into the territory. Aid groups say shipments are increasing, but not nearly enough.
The ceasefire has opened a narrow window of opportunity, and WFP is moving very quickly and swiftly to scale up food assistance.
But there are warnings. Aid groups say getting supplies to Gaza City and northern Gaza is extremely challenging. The United Nations top aid official was in Rafah, Egypt this week. He's calling for a dramatic surge in aid shipments and for all routes into Gaza to be opened up.
We want to reach everyone in Gaza with food. We want to get 700,000 kids back into school. We want to get the power and water back on. We want to start to rebuild the health sector. Massive, massive jobs ahead.
That work just getting started under a fragile ceasefire, aid groups trying to make sure people in Gaza are fed, Israel demanding its hostages finally come home. Tom Perry, CBC News, Cairo.
Ottawa is re-upping its pledge to boost Canada's border security with plans to hire 1,000 new officers targeting illegal drugs and guns.
How are you? Nice to meet you, Vanessa. Thank you very much.
The $617 million in additional funding is part of the upcoming fall budget announced at this Ontario border crossing. Ottawa already set aside more than $1 billion to bolster the border. The new hires will include intelligence officers, investigators, and security screeners. The owner of a Winnipeg jewelry business is recovering from gunshot wounds tonight after a terrifying robbery caught on tape. It's part of a violent surge happening as the price of gold spikes. Karen Pauls shows us how organized crime may be profiting.
Masked gunmen burst into this Winnipeg home, heading straight for the inventory of the family's online jewelry shop, filling bags, shooting and injuring the owner and his father when they try to stop them.
My leg got 7 shots and it's too painful. The doctor said it's the 1-inch difference, then you're gonna be died.
The violent thieves also made away with a large haul.
They're robbing me like 5 or 6 kg gold.
That's almost $1 million worth of gold. The current market price for 1 ounce, about 6,000 Canadian dollars, an increase of 55% since this time last year, and still rising.
It just seems every single day we're hitting new historical highs. People flock to safety and security during these uncertain times.
Police in the Greater Toronto area and all along Highway 401 to Quebec are seeing an uptick in smash and grabs at jewelry shops. Surveillance video shows store owners using brooms, hammers, even swords to fend off swarms of thieves as they smash display cases and scoop up jewelry.
the smash and grab type robberies are occurring in less than 90 seconds. So for the same amount of time, the amount of value you are able to steal has now gone up.
Experts say organized crime is involved in many, though not all, of the robberies. Gold is untraceable, easily melted, concealed, sold, and moved, so it's an attractive target.
It's more discreet if you're trying to move assets, move criminal funds. You no longer need a duffel bag full of Canadian banknotes. You need a few gold coins.
Jewelers are being told to do risk assessments, identify their vulnerabilities, and then beef up their security to address them. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Alberta's province-wide teacher strike is headed for a third week after the union rejected a letter from the government requesting they return to the classroom.
The letter is unacceptable to teachers in the association, and we won't be doing what the letter says. So returning back to work on the 20th is not what is going to happen.
The letter asked the union to begin mediation, but said one of the main sticking points would not be up for discussion: student-teacher ratios. Alberta's government is threatening to force teachers back to work if no deal is reached before the end of the month. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says a new report into Alberta Health Services procurement practices found no fault with her government.
A lot of the problems with AHS decision-making were with AHS decision-makers and their staff. And I think that the judge's report makes that very, very clear.
The judge who authored the report found no evidence of wrongdoing, but noted he had limited powers and couldn't make a definitive assessment. He did find conflicts of interest at AHS and called for better protections for whistleblowers. The investigation is one of 3 sparked by a wrongful dismissal suit filed by the former CEO. After months of drought, boats aground in the St. Lawrence should soon be freed. The group that controls Great Lakes water levels is boosting flow to the river. As Nicole Williams shows us, it's a short window to get the boats out before winter.
It doesn't move.
Many boats along the St. Lawrence River right now are grounded in the mud and shallow waters.
We're going to have to move a tug with a tug. We're going to have to tow the boat to the crane, because there's not enough water over there.
It's all because of how dry this summer and fall have been in Quebec and around the Great Lakes. Hot conditions and not nearly enough rain. At this marina, water levels are about 2 meters lower than normal.
It costs lots of money if you hit the rock or the bottom.
Drought conditions have meant reinforced speed limits and maximum weight limits for shipping vessels along the St. Lawrence Seaway, and recreational businesses that operate along the Rideau Canal have taken hits too. It's normally a popular route for cruise lines. This year, not so much.
We ended up having to bypass 4 of our fall trips on the Rideau Canal.
Starting Friday, the flow of water is being increased at this dam for about 36 hours from Lake Ontario into Lake St. Louis, which feeds the St. Lawrence River.
We're allowing 500 meter cubes per second more than what we usually release.
This is expected to raise water levels by about 15 centimeters, enough to haul boats out of the water before things begin to freeze.
We were hoping, I think, for more precipitations in the fall. This has not happened.
In some parts of Lake Ontario, the water will be a foot lower, but experts say it won't be noticeable to most.
With summers getting hotter and drier, low water levels are something experts expect to see much more often. And while it's not the first time Lake Ontario has been used to save the St. Lawrence, experts warn it's not a long-term solution. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
New numbers show condo sales in Canada's biggest cities are way down.
We've paused the work. We're sitting on it.
What's behind the market reversal? That's next. Another pistachio product is added to the recall list.
The situation is so much more complex than the usual outbreak investigation.
Why contamination warnings are dragging on. And excitement is at a fever pitch for these Jays fans.
We got married on October 5th.
Their playoff honeymoon is our moment. We're back in 2.
is a grand slam.
Ouch. The Mariners scoring 5 runs in the 8th inning to beat the Blue Jays 6-2 tonight in Game 5 of the American League Championship Series. Seattle is now 1 win away from a trip to the World Series. Game 6 is Sunday in Toronto. Condo sales in Greater Toronto and Hamilton area hit a 35-year low in the latest quarter. The slump has already seen some developments scrapped. Nisha Patel now with what's driving the shift.
In Canada's biggest cities, condo construction is stalling.
We're not launching new projects, but the projects that are launched aren't hitting pre-sale requirements. This is a project we're building in Vancouver right now.
Developer Jonathan Meads says demand for condos has disappeared. Sales are at the lowest levels since 2008 during the Great Financial Crisis. He's put some of his building plans on hold.
We've paused the work. We're sitting on it. We know it's incurring land interest, but it would be very difficult to launch in this market.
It's a dramatic shift from the frenzy of years past. As lower immigration has cooled the need for rentals, investors no longer see pre-construction condos as a profitable bet. First-time buyers have also been driven away by high prices and economic uncertainty.
There's knock-on impacts for the trades, consultants, and even secondary suppliers, etc. So the unemployment issue is looming.
The slowdown is most pronounced in Vancouver and Toronto. This plan to turn an Etobicoke mall into condos is the latest project to be scrapped. Since the start of last year, 32 condo projects totaling almost 7,000 units have been cancelled in the area covering Greater Toronto and Hamilton.
When construction has already begun and market conditions change, demand change, that supply does not just adjust as rapidly.
We've been through these ups and downs in the market. You've got a herringbone detail flooring.
For now, companies like Greywood Developments have to pivot when a building isn't selling well.
The team made the decision to cancel that project and change it over to a purpose-built rental.
The company has also been focusing on condos that are meant to be sold to owners, not investors, turning to smaller buildings with more spacious floor plans.
For the right project, there still is a market.
For buyers, a silver lining, more choice than they've had in years. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Contaminated pistachios have sickened dozens across the country.
Pistachio is very important for us.
Why the outbreak is so hard to trace. Plus,
we don't need data the way we need water. It's essential.
The environmental concerns about AI data centers. And rising tensions with China cause new defense moves in Taiwan.
Vice President, very good to meet you. I'm Chris Brown.
Yes, welcome to Taiwan. We sit down with Taiwan's Vice President. The National breaks down the story shaping our world next. New recall notices are still being issued for pistachio products months into an ongoing Salmonella outbreak. More than 100 people have become sick. Tanya Fletcher with why investigators say rooting out every single contaminated product is so hard.
This one? Mini kunapa.
In the heart of downtown Vancouver, the manager of Pistachio's Sweetery Cafe serves up what he calls pure gold.
Pistachio is very important for us and very tasty for the people.
But his marquee ingredient is under intense scrutiny. Across Canada, there have been at least 105 Salmonella cases from pistachios, spanning BC, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick.
The situation is so much more complex than the usual outbreak investigation.
And that's because pistachios are an ingredient found in many other foods.
The nuts are small and they're used in so many different products. They're sold over a longer period of time because the nuts are shelf stable, that it's taking a lot longer to identify all those products.
The recall list is long and growing. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has been investigating for months. They've discovered the contaminated pistachio products are linked to Iran.
It really took them time to actually trace the origins of it. It took them several weeks, and even now, every other day, they seem to be having a product recall.
He says Salmonella is not uncommon in pistachios. The bacteria can contaminate the soil in pistachio orchards, and once the nuts are dried, it can stubbornly stick around for months.
And then when you put them into a vehicle like chocolate, the Dubai chocolate, which has a craze, the chocolate actually protects the salmonella from our stomach acid. So it's a double whammy. It's almost like a perfect vehicle.
New illnesses are still being reported, but public health says case counts are starting to slow. Still, they say it could be some time yet before this outbreak is over. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Caught in the middle of a global trade conflict between the U.S. and China,
Taiwan managed to build one of the most comprehensive and competitive ecosystems.
Taiwan now leveraging its microchip dominance. We're one-on-one with the vice president. But first,
it's been a very water-intensive process.
The deluge in Canadian AI data centers sparking environmental concerns.
We don't need data the way we need water. It's essential.
A new tension point between economic growth and resource conservation. Jonathan Montpetit explores both sides of the debate, the fear of draining the water versus the allure of big tech dollars.
The AI industry is growing fast, and it's spending staggering sums building data centers, the huge banks of computers needed to power this new technology. But this AI infrastructure also comes with an environmental cost. When we use an AI chatbot to answer life's essential questions, data centers consume water, both in electricity and more directly in their cooling systems. A study done in 2023 estimated that every dozen or so prompts in ChatGPT used about 500 milliliters of water, or about one of these water bottles. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, keep in mind that nearly 800 million people use ChatGPT every week. The tech industry is rushing to build data centers powerful enough to support the growing demand for AI products. It's projected to spend more than $400 billion this year alone on AI infrastructure around the world. This is YTO40, one of several new hyperscale data centers that Microsoft is currently building in Canada. Inside will be thousands of servers working around the clock, generating an intense amount of heat. And cooling these data centers is becoming a major issue for the tech industry. Most big data centers need some measure of potable water to cool their server rooms. In warmer climates, data centers can easily chug through a swimming pool's worth of water every day, most of which evaporates. And where water is scarce, places like Spain, Uruguay, and parts of the US, citizens are rising up against these projects. Just last month, Google shelved a data center project in Indianapolis.
I'd like to announce our intention to withdraw this proposal
after growing community backlash.
Traditional data centers and traditional industrial cooling has really used a lot of water. It's been a very water-intensive process.
Alistair Spears is in charge of Microsoft's cloud infrastructure. He says improvements in technology mean the new facilities in Canada will use much less water than before.
So one of the great things about building in Canada and in colder climates is that we can just use free air cooling from outside air temperatures.
The data centers Microsoft is building in and around Toronto have been cleared by city officials to use around 1 billion liters of water per year. But Microsoft says it will only use a fraction of that amount because huge vents will allow it to cool the servers using outside air. With its cool climate and cheap electricity, Canada is poised to become a popular spot in the data center boom. There are already more than 300 data centers in Canada, most of them near Toronto and Montreal. But now the industry is looking to some of the driest parts of the country.
You're developing, I understand, what will become the world's largest AI data center in Canada, Northwest Alberta. Tell us about that.
This is going to be the lowest cost data center in the world.
And even serial investors like Kevin O'Leary want in on the action. In Nanaimo, a proposed data center has some residents worried about foreign tech using up local resources.
All those in favor of the motion?
And those opposed, Councillors Gesselbrock.
But Mayor Leonard Krog sees an opportunity.
Every community is looking to be part of what we will call the future in terms of the economy, what kinds of jobs, and the kind of jobs that would be attracted to this kind of facility are the jobs of the future to some extent.
Catherine Barnwell, a retired English professor, is part of a group of citizens opposed to the project. She says a few jobs aren't worth the risk to the environment.
Life on this planet is sustained by water. It is not sustained by data. You know, we don't need data the way we need water. It's essential. And we in Canada have been pretty blithe about our natural resources.
Barnwell is staking her long-time friendship with the mayor on changing his mind.
I really, really enjoin you to think about what this could mean for, you know, your political career and your legacy.
I'm not going to agree with all of Catherine's assertions, I'm afraid.
In both Europe and the US, officials are trying to regulate how much water data centers can use. But so far, there is little industry oversight here in Canada.
If you approve data centers that are relying on your treated city water, that's less water in your water budget and your water accounting for your residential growth.
David Mayer is a professor of municipal water engineering at the University of Toronto.
Canadians that live in dry areas should care a lot about AI water usage. That water is needed for agriculture, it's needed for cities. Canadians that live near large freshwater bodies should care about the water usage of AI, both because it takes a lot of energy and carbon to treat and move our water around, and because we have pipes that are already underground that were built on plans that hadn't thought of AI. Some of our pipes are 100 years old. We hadn't thought of lots of things when they went underground. They were not expecting the thirst of an AI data center.
But many data centers don't disclose their water consumption figures, and cities don't always keep track. This Amazon data center in the Montreal suburb of Varennes has been using municipal drinking water since 2018. But the building doesn't have a water meter, so no one in the city actually knows just how much water is being used. And Amazon wouldn't answer our questions about its water use here.
The way I explain it is, unlike any other industry, water is like blood to the data center industry.
Nathan Wanguzi used to work on water sustainability issues for Amazon, which operates dozens of data centers around the world.
What I found, and I think this is an industry-wide problem, but then obviously because Amazon is the biggest company, that there's a tendency to deny or cover that water consumption exists.
Big tech companies, including Microsoft and Amazon, have promised to have net zero water consumption by 2030. But Wanguzi is skeptical that the tech industry can both keep building massive AI data centers while also reducing their water intake.
I don't really believe that that's possible. I've looked at these numbers obviously very closely. I've developed programs to monitor, and I can tell you categorically, it is not possible for any of the big tech companies today to meet water positive by 2030 or even 2050 unless they go bankrupt.
Why should Canadians care about how much water these data centers are consuming?
They should care about it because that is the water that they should be consuming.
The AI data center boom is coming to Canada. Governments want it, industry wants it, and the question now is whether the country has enough resources to quench our thirst for this new technology.
The federal government says it's aware of 8 other large data center projects currently in development across the country. No exact dates yet for when they'll be operational. The microchip capital of the world, Taiwan, at the center of tense China-U.S. trade relations.
Everything we are doing in the security realm is to prevent conflict.
A CBC News interview with the Vice President of Taiwan next. Facing ongoing tension with China and pressure from the U.S., Taiwan's government pursues more defense spending.
We are committed and determined to defend Taiwan from harm,
leveraging the country's tech prowess to build deterrence. That's just one of the topics Chris Brown spoke about with Taiwan's vice president, a conversation that ranged from trade and tariffs to chips and China.
In many ways, Taiwan is riding high. This small island that lives warily in China's shadow has succeeded in cornering the market for making high-end processing chips used in artificial intelligence. Its high-tech focused economy is surging, and for a place that isn't recognized by most other countries in the world, including Canada, a lot of nations are now paying attention. But China's menacing military behavior and unpredictable U.S. foreign policy pose serious challenges.
Vice President, very good to meet you. I'm Chris Brown.
Yes, welcome to Taiwan.
We sat down with Taiwan's Vice President, Hsiao Bi-khim, where she talked about the potential leverage Taiwan hopes to gain from its chip industry and why it's creating an expensive missile shield around the island.
I want to start with some questions about Canada, first of all. Some of your media have reported about trade discussions that happened with Canada with the previous government of Justin Trudeau, suggesting that Canada's been dragging its feet at implementing them. What can you tell me about this?
Canada is an important trading partner with Taiwan, and our economies are complementary in many ways, and certainly hope that we can move forward in continuing our trade discussions. Over the past years, these discussions have been very productive, and we look forward to continuing.
Is there a delay?
Well, trade talks are always complicated. We look forward to and we're hopeful that we can continue these discussions. Canada has been a big provider of agricultural products to Taiwan, and Taiwan has been a producer of some key technology components that also contribute to Canada's manufacturing. And so, we would certainly like to continue a very strong and robust economic and trade relationship, and it would be helpful to have that legal infrastructure that further consolidates a trade partnership between us.
You must be concerned, I would think, of Taiwan simply being a bargaining chip in this big trade war between the U.S. and China.
One of our key industries, the semiconductor and chip industry, has been partner to the United States and the Silicon Valley. In fact, many people see the Silicon Valley and Taiwan's tech parks as one single large ecosystem of technology that drives global prosperity.
I take your point about a joint ecosystem, if you will, particularly in the issue of semiconductors, but we've also heard U.S. officials saying they want Taiwan to move a very large amount of its manufacturing of chips to the U.S. I've heard the amount is around 50%. What's your feeling about that, and how much is a reasonable amount to shift out of Taiwan?
Well, let me first address Taiwan's strength and competitive edge in chip manufacturing. And that is, this is not something that happened overnight. It took us decades to build. And it was also decades of hardship under very difficult international circumstances. Taiwan managed to build one of the most comprehensive and competitive ecosystems that support high-end manufacturing in semiconductor chips. We have made commitments to investing in the United States, not just TSMC, but broader sectors of the ecosystem, from their suppliers to designers, and other chip manufacturing companies are also working with American firms like Intel to enhance their production capabilities. And so this is a very win-win partnership that we have going on, and we will continue to build on that.
Even today, we've seen in the Strait lots of examples of Chinese ships and aircraft crossing the line, behaving aggressively. What is your government's latest calculus on the threat, military threat from China in a possible timeline?
I think, first of all, I need to reiterate that everything we are doing in the security realm is to prevent conflict from happening. So ultimately, timelines and discussions of timelines are contingent upon our own preparedness and our strengths.
And I want to ask you about the president's announcement about the T-dome, the missile shield. How's that going to work? How's it going to be paid for?
Now, the president's conceptually, the T-dome is producing a multi-layered safety net around Taiwan that involves air defenses, but also more sophisticated sensor to shooter integration. It also includes different systems and the introduction of software and new technologies to provide that hybrid shield, which, given China's tremendous investments in their new military technologies, will of course be a very challenging task, but we are committed and determined to defend Taiwan from harm.
Vice President, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like those in Taiwan, Canadians are used to living close to a global giant. In many ways, it has defined the year 2025. Today, some historical perspective from a former Prime Minister. Jean Chrétien spoke with Catherine Cullen, host of CBC Radio's The House. Here's an excerpt.
I would like to understand, you dealt with so many world leaders over the years. There is something unique about what Donald Trump is doing right now. He says he hates his enemies. He is using the U.S. justice system against them. He is relying on executive power to get a lot of things done. Immigration raids where people are being handcuffed in the streets. Do you think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy?
He is. He is. Because he does not care much about the rule of law. And the Western society is built on the rule of law. When there is no more rule of law, it's blackmail on a daily basis, and it's not working. So, how long it will last, he will not be there forever. And, there will be a price to pay for that. I don't know what will be the result. It could cause a lot of problems south of the border. This seems to run away from values that made the United States these days. But if you ask me if I'm very pessimistic, I said no. I've been around I was the president of the Young Liberal in 1956 at Laval University. You were not very old. And, so I've seen a lot of periods. Sometimes we were more or less discouraged. We thought there was times that thought it was terrible. We had violence, we had terrorism in Europe, and murder all the time, and so on. We look back and we went through it. So today we face, as I had to face all my life, a wall that I thought the hell will get over or around it or underneath it. But at the end of the day, we managed to do it. So I think we'll manage again.
That conversation with Jean Chrétien is part of an upcoming piece for CBC Radio's The House and The National. The full story is coming soon. Coming up, from a wedding to the ballpark, this couple is showing their commitment.
I think we're going to probably end up going to watch them in LA next week.
The honeymoon shooting for the World Series in our moment. You're looking at newlyweds Eric and Rebecca Livingston, some of the Blue Jays' newest superfans. The team's incredible playoff run inspired their honeymoon. Tonight, their love for the Jays is our moment.
We got married on October 5th. Then our planned honeymoon was in Victoria, and then we watched the Jays win, so we bought tickets as soon as the Mariners win, and honeymoon part 2. We knew we were coming into enemy territory, and so we wanted to just be as visible as possible to show that we're here for the Jays. Let's go Blue Jays! We're very different. He's from Montreal, I'm from Southern Alberta. Even like the type of music that we listen to is very different. Baseball has been something that we're both super passionate about. It's been extra special to find something that we both are super passionate about separately, and now we can enjoy it together as a married couple.
For all those Canadians that are scared to cross the border to come here, now just come.
I think we're gonna probably end up going to watch them in LA next week.
I hope so. Falling in love over baseball, Rebecca says she was a big fan of the Montreal Expos as a kid because it was the only team she saw on CBC in the 1970s. And maybe it was a sign. Not the best results tonight, but a World Series honeymoon part 3 would make for a great story. From all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Christine Birak. Take care.